Hey, what's up, you guys? WWE Fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to review Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. Whoosh. So, Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom stars Harrison Ford, Kate Capshaw, and Jonathan Ke Quan, and what this film is about. It's about when archaeologist and adventurous Indiana Jones, along with his sidekick Short Round and singer William Scott, they have to try and recover the stone that's been stolen by this cult group, and they have to get back to this village, and basically they just have to not try to get themselves killed while trying to get the stone back, because this cult is something not to mess with. So, what did I think of Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom? Now, a lot of people are really mixed on this prequel. Yes, this is actually a prequel. I feel like a lot of people forget that this is not actually a sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is actually a prequel. And, a lot of people are mixed on it. They think it's a little bit too ridiculous. They think it's just alright. But, some people do like it, or even some people love it. Now, where do I stand on that? I think it's a fun prequel. It's an enjoyable, fun prequel. Sure, it's not as great as Raiders of the Lost Ark, but you know what? It was still an enjoyable, fun prequel. It was still a very enjoyable movie. I still had tons of fun watching Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. So let's get into my positives, and my positives are, first being the acting. The acting is really good in the movie. I thought mostly everybody did a really good job in the movie. First being, of course, Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. He's by far the best actor in the movie. He does a really great job as Indiana Jones in this film. Of course, he does a great job. He's Harrison Ford. But, he was very enjoyable. He did a great job in the movie. Of course, I enjoyed him as Indiana Jones in the film. Jonathan Ke Quan as Short Round. He was great, too. I actually really enjoyed him. He was a very, very enjoyable character. And he definitely had some great moments with Indiana Jones in the movie. So yeah, he was just very enjoyable. Thought he did a really good job as well. So yeah, the acting's really good in the movie. I thought everyone did a good job. The action's great. I love the action with the movie. Definitely this film has some great, great action. I love the action with Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. It does have some incredible action with the movie. Of course, the musical score, like with the original movie, the musical score just fits with every scene that you hear it in. It really does, and it just really sets the mood and really, brings the intensity more in the action and stuff, and it's just great. And, of course, I love the musical score with the movie. I love the back and forth with, the dynamic between, Indiana Jones and Short Round. It's honestly great. I really enjoyed that with the movie. I did enjoy that. They had great back and forth with each other, and they were just a great pairing, in my opinion. And just like with the first movie, the movie, like I said, it's not like a comedy or anything, but it does have some great, comedic moments, especially with Indiana Jones and Short Round, especially a scene where they're playing cards. And, it just has some great, comedic moments like that, you know what I mean? And it just works really well, so yeah. The writing's great with the movie. I thought the writing was great with Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. The directing's great as well. Of course, it's directed by Steven Spielberg. He does a great job directing the movie. And the pacing's good for the most part in this movie. I think the pacing is really good for the most part in this film. Now let's get into my negatives, because I do have some negatives with Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. First being, some of the acting really isn't all that great. First being the villains, the guys that played the villains, they acted a little bit too ridiculous and over the top at points, and they just weren't just that great in the movie. And of course, the one thing everybody talks about in terms of bad with this movie, everyone, even if you love this movie, you have to agree on this. Kate Capshaw is horrendous. She's awful in this movie. She is by far probably the worst thing about this movie. She honestly is. I hated her character. All she does in this movie is scream and yell. That's all she's there for. It's just to scream and yell and be a damsel in distress. That's all she's there for. Nothing more, nothing less. There's literally nothing to her character except to just scream, yell, call for Indiana Jones, and just be a damsel in distress. And that's it. That's it. That's all she's there for. And she just acts horrendous in this movie. She is awful. She's by far the worst thing about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So yeah. Well, I guess it all works out in the end because eventually that's how her and Steven Spielberg got married. So I guess everything does happen for a reason. So yeah. The movie does get really ridiculous at some points. There are some really ridiculous moments in this movie. I don't think the whole movie's ridiculous like some people think it is, but there are some points in this movie where it gets really, really ridiculous. And especially one scene that involves them having to, the way they have to jump out of a plane. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm like, oh my goodness. There are some points where the movie does get really, really ridiculous. The villains, they're really weak. They're not honestly great villains. They're very forgettable villains. They're just there to just be the sake for being villains. They're not all that great. Not all that intimidating, honestly. They're just not that great villains. The villains in the first movie were 10 times better than the villains in this movie, honestly. They just weren't all that great. And last being, some of the pacing does get really slow. The movie does get really slow at some points. And I was bored at a couple moments in the movie. I was just like, okay, you can pick it up. Like, you can just pick it up now. And it just felt really, really slow at some points. But overall, I do think Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom is a very fun and enjoyable prequel. Like I said, sure, it's not as great as Raiders of the Lost Ark, but you know what? It doesn't have to be. It was still an enjoyable prequel, and I still had a fun time with it. So it's time for my official grade on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and my official grade on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is a B. It's a very, very enjoyable, fun prequel. I had tons of fun with it. It had some great action, great acting from Harrison Ford. It's a very fun prequel. I had an enjoyable time with the movie. So yeah. So, what did you guys think of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom? Leave in the comment section below. And I'm WWE Fan 0599, and we'll see you all tomorrow for my review for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Peace.